Devlin, Untamed.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Martin Devlin, Lachlan Watt, iOS. It's Only Sport. That's the name of our show. It's Only Sport. It's the only true independent daily radio sports show in this country. Broadcast live on the platform every afternoon, 1 till 4. And available right now if you can't stay with us throughout the afternoon. Big time rugby to start with today. Richie Robertson, Scott Robertson, All Black coach, speaking for the first time during Super Rugby. All kinds of questions asked by a cacophony of sports journalists present, including, of course, commenting about Sam Cane. He's never going to let us know who the new All Black captain is going to be, but is he going to pick this All Black side on Super Rugby form? Scott Robertson on the podcast. And then a couple of different perspectives on Sam Cane, who won't be the captain this year for the All Blacks. He's on 95 tests at the moment. Is he going to make 100? Ian Foster, who selected Sam Cane at the beginning of last year as his captain for the World Cup, joined us, as well as Chris Jones, for a UK perspective. I always like to go overseas at times like this and ask, so outside of New Zealand, what is the impression of that guy? NBA basketball also today. Sean Keeler from the Denver Post. Well, if you've been following this Timberwolves Denver Nuggets series, it's just an absolute crackerjack. Both teams have won both games on their opponent's home court. It's tied at 2s, goes into game 5 tomorrow. Plus, we met today a couple of blokes who have formed the official, well, it was unofficial, now it's official, Auckland FC supporters group. LBP, let's be positive. Mark Watson apologised to me, episode 83 of that podcast. We did a lot. Can't squeeze it all onto the podcast, I'm sorry, but you'll get snippets of just about everything in the next 45, 50 minutes. We begin the show the same way every single day. Tablets in hand, gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. What about that guy, Sam Cane? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
So how do we look back at Sam Cane's All Black career? Well, for a start, it's not over. He still wants to play. His stint at captain is over after 27 tests. And despite his best efforts, the team around him has simply not been good enough while he's been captain. Since the semi-final loss to England and Japan in 2019, the All Blacks have lost 12 tests and drawn 2 over the last few years. If we hadn't have made the World Cup final, this All Black side would be regarded as one of our worst ever. In terms of results, it's one of our worst ever. And results are the only measurement there is when it comes to the All Blacks. It's not about Instagram likes. It's not about how many giggle comments get left on NZR Plus posts. It's not about Silver Lake creating new synergies, exciting space strategies and massive marketing opportunities, Mark Robinson. The All Blacks are about one thing, and that is results. And this All Blacks team with Sam as captain has seriously underperformed in recent years. Unfortunately for Cane, that is attached to every bit of analysis and opinion anyone will ever do about him as a player. But 95 tests, that's very, very close to legendary status. Any man who's played 100 or more test matches for New Zealand is beloved in this country. Look at the list. McCaw, Whitelock, Reid, Carter, Retallick, Aaron Smith. No, it goes on and on and on. But not Cane. Now, the closest comparison I can make with Sam Cane is to Tane Randall. Not the greatest All Black ever, but he certainly wasn't a bad All Black. 51 tests, 22 as captain for Tane. But how is he remembered? He's remembered as a losing All Black captain because we went to a World Cup in 1999 and we failed. The margins are very fine indeed. In 2007, Richie Mo'unga was a captain who didn't have a clue as we lost a quarter-final to France. I remember him afterwards saying something along the lines of, we don't take penalties. We're the All Blacks, we score tries. Well, all we needed was a penalty and we would have won that game in the second half. However, in 2015, he retires as a national hero after captaining the team to back-to-back World Cup wins, and deservedly so. Best player in the world. Sam Cane's team was a point away from winning in Paris last year. A point. If we had have won that game, it'd be Sir Ian Foster and a World Cup winning Sam Cane. Instead, he remains in that no man's land of a good player, but not great, when in actual fact, his individual performances in those 95 tests have mostly been excellent. But because of the team's failings, Captain Sam Cane is always going to be thought of, and not his fault, but alongside Captain Tane.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Scott Robertson shortly from the Zoom press conference. Locked in. The headlines, let me guess, every sports media website in this country is leading with the Prime Minister wearing a Highlanders jersey or talking about the Crusaders.
Well, the Prime Minister's a Crusaders fan. Why is he wearing a Highlanders shirt?
Who cares, mate?
It's not leading, but on One News they've got a story. Christopher Luxon gives his take on who should be All Blacks captain.
Look, I used to scorn this when they used to do it with Cindy and when they used to do it with Grant Robertson, when they used to do it with everyone else.
Go the Highlanders.
Just run the bloody country, mate.
We don't want
I don't care about your take, or just run the country.
Also, One News are leading.
And use political journalists. Ask them political questions, or if your brains can't figure that out, well, come and be sports reporters.
Yeah, One News leading with a really strange angle from the Scott Robertson Zoom, where he was asked about your thoughts on the Crusaders season. And when I heard that from the report, I thought,
That's when we left the Zoom.
Well, I just thought it's not relevant. We're here to talk about Kane and the All Blacks. I don't want to talk about the Crusaders.
At that stage, we switched off our camera and we went in. We had some other things.
Just to tell you what, you were doing the rounds at the start of it, though. Were you saying hi to everyone?
Yeah, it's a bit of a catch-up. I mean, I'm mates with all those people.
Well, no, but it's nice, because I used to be on these Zooms a lot when I was at News Talk ZB and the Herald.
Well, no one ever says anything, mate.
When it was when it was like COVID days and you didn't have the stand-ups and, and now Zooms are just the normal thing now, which is annoying. But, and everyone will just kind of sit there and not do anything. It's like, okay, I guess this is kosher for what these are.
A lot of these people you hear on this program, you hear Jamie on the program. I mean, there's a fair few that we can't get because they work for other organisations, but Pat is an old mate. Elliot's a really good mate.
Elliot's a great mate.
Liam's on there. Michelle was on there.
Michelle Prendeville.
Yeah, I mean, she worked with us at News Talk for a while, so... Yeah, they're all friends. Yeah, and also Matt Gunn, I must say, can I just tip my hat to that guy? I think he's doing a hell of a job as well. Joe Locke did a great job.
Joe Malcolm as well.
Joe Malcolm was brilliant. Yeah. Very easy to get along with.
Well, it's not an easy job as well.
Well, your phone goes non-bloody stop, mate.
And I tell you what, I'm the kind of person that if someone annoys me or I get a little bit irked by one little thing, I'm just irked by everything. I wouldn't have the patience for the All Blacks media job.
That is the key to it. I think you're doing a great job, Matt. Thank you so much for inviting us, mate.
Anyway, Scott Robertson has indicated that he has told the next All Blacks captain of their incoming status. Still, he won't confirm the anointed leader until unveiling his first national squad following the Super Rugby final. A couple of quotes here from Scott Robertson. This is, of course, from the Zoom that we were on. There's been conversations and discussions that have been had with players. That's all I can say. It will be announced when we name the team. I hope it's Scott Barrett, and I would think the fact that he was the captain for the Crusaders in the last couple of years of Razor's Crusaders tenure means he's probably the front runner. The other guy that I don't think he'd get it, but he probably will be a vice captain because he was a vice captain / standing captain for the Crusaders, is Cody Taylor. He could be in the running for it, maybe. I'm only saying it because of the Crusader side of things. I don't think it will be Artie because he's been in Japan, and I don't know if he's going to be on the run-on side straight away.
Look, either or I think would be brilliant. The other thing is that, God, I keep calling him Razor. I want to call him Scott now because he's the All Black coach. I want to call him...
Well, you called Ian Foster Foz.
Did I call him?
Yeah, and you call Sir Steve Hansen Shag.
Okay, there you go. All right.
What did you call Graham Henry, Ted?
Actually, I bumped into him about 2 weeks ago on Waiheke Island, just going for a walk, and I called him Sir Ted, as a matter of fact. Yeah. The All Blacks 32-man squad will be announced the Monday after the Super Rugby final. That was confirmed today as well. So the captain will be announced that day too.
Yeah, often the case that it's a week after Super Rugby. All right, some netball news. Veteran Kiwi netballers are supportive of a move to reunify New Zealand's ANZ Premiership with Australia's Suncorp Super Netball. These players include Silver Ferns captain Amelia Rand Ignacio, Waikato Bay Plenty Magic player Arena Makaide, who's actually been, she made a comeback to netball and was sort of in her latter years, and that was about 4 or 5 years ago. She's still playing, Makaide. Good stuff. Yeah, those are the two that are mentioned in this article here. And I think most fans are saying that as well. I think if you can get us involved with the best netballing nation in the world in a domestic competition, a club or franchise competition, go ahead, do it. Absolutely. Premier League this morning, a game on between my beloved Liverpool and Aston Villa. I tell you what, I said it, I only saw bits and pieces of it because I was gymming hard this morning, Martin, pumping iron. I tell you what, I feel rigorous.
Was there anyone watching you? Because man and gym always goes harder depending on...
Yeah, the issue with man and gym, there's man and gym who goes a bit too hard at his puffing and pumping and whatnot. Then he just stares at himself in the mirror.
Oh, I know the grunt machine. I don't like that.
I don't grunt much, but you can't help it if you're going pretty hard sometimes, so I breathe out pretty loudly. But when you're a guy, when you're anyone really in the gym, you do tend to look over and just have a look.
Problem with Lachlan is that Lachlan's also short-sighted and he wears his glasses. So when he takes the glasses off in the gym, he's looking over at somebody, he's thinking, she's looking back at me, and he doesn't quite realise until he puts his glasses back on that
it's a long-haired dude.
that's a guy. That's a dude. That's a dude.
But I'm just sitting there, I'm on the row machine, I'm just leaning forward and
See, the old squinting. No, it's not a great look,
It's
mate.
not an attractive look. And you've also got beard hair as well. So it's a terrible
mix. It's the gym. You're meant to be going to get fit, and then once you're fit, then you start going really, right?
A common theme for guys, and I'm sure girls are the same, because many people that I've met in the past have said this, that look, the opposite sex that you're attracted to, or the sex that you're attracted to, in active wear is attractive. Is certainly very attractive. So
that's why we wear it.
That's why a lot of us Jim. I don't go for the muscles, I go for the girls. What I didn't say that. Anyway, Aston Villa this morning 3, Liverpool 3.
Yeah, great
Liverpool were up 3.
Result.
No, it's not a great result. Liverpool were up 3-1. 7 or 8 minutes to go in the game, and they were looking good. I said it to you. I thought there's a bit more energy, there's a bit more zing. It's like the pressure's off, and the players are just kicking around like a couple of kids. Aston Villa got 2 late goals to draw 3-3. What it means in terms of the table, Liverpool, I think, are locked into third regardless, aren't they? Let's have a look.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, I think
but it now means I don't think we can get 80 points. No, we can get 80 points. Even if we draw against Wolves in our last game, we can still get 80 points, which is, I think, if you can get 80 or more, that's a good season. Aston Villa are 4th on 68 points. They've got 1 to go. Spurs have 2. Spurs, if they win both their games, will be in the Champions League. If Aston Villa lose their last game, so Villa needed to win to actually lock in that spot, but even if they draw their final game, it doesn't matter. But Spurs also have to win tomorrow morning. So that's the next game of note in terms of the race for the Champions League. If Tottenham can beat Man City, not only does it affect the title race between City and Arsenal, it actually means that Tottenham have put themselves in a very, I can't say strong position, but in a position to potentially snag 4th spot off Aston Villa. But a lot needs to go Tottenham's way. Rather strange scenes in the boxing world.
this is weird.
Very weird.
Well, actually, it's not weird. It's what you expect almost, except the guy involved is 59.
Yeah. Tyson Fury's father
What kind of guy in his late 50s gets involved in a violent altercation? It worked.
A boxer?
Okay. No, well, sorry. A
guy who's
working for NZME.
Oh, shit.
I was driving down the street. I was flagging. I had my headlights go, mate. You couldn't see it.
No, I couldn't. Well, I don't know. I didn't think you were happy to venture down that road.
Yeah, you got to laugh at it these days.
Tyson Fury's father appeared to headbutt a member of Alexander Usyk's entourage in a bloody clash at a media day for this weekend's undisputed world heavyweight title fight in Saudi Arabia. The man's name is John Fury. He always kind of creates a bit of a scene at these press conferences, John Fury, and he's so wired and so upbeat and intense that
You suspect.
there's something in his system.
Yeah, you suspect that this guy's drunk 19,000 coffees in a minute before he came to the press conference.
Yeah.
Or something.
Just a guess. We'll go from strange scenes to quite sad news in the world of boxing. British boxer Sheriff Lawal has died after collapsing following a blow to the temple during his professional debut over the weekend. Very sad news. Very, very sad. Your professional debut. And that happens. All right, and let's go to some NBA. There's a couple of games on today. Is there games on today? Yeah, there's 2 on. The Celtics up against the Cavaliers. Game 4 in Cleveland. Boston have an 8-point lead with just over a minute to go in the game. So it looks like the Celtics will have a 3-1 lead heading back to Boston for Game 5, where they can close the series out. And it's Game 4 between the Dallas Mavericks and the OKC Thunder. Should the Mavericks win, they have a 3-1 lead going back to OKC. They currently lead 2-1, and they're at home for this game. You'd have to give them the edge. That's what's making news, Martin.
Devlin,
You've gotta love sport.
the platform.
Scott Robertson's first press conference in a fair while. This is always going to be timed for, well, a little more than halfway through Super Rugby. So we'll play you a couple of questions that we asked at the start of this, and then you can get the rest of it on any other website or sports website, the rest of it. Talking to Scott Robertson. Here we go. Obviously, the first thing about Sam, just your thoughts on him as his tenure as captain, and have you made up your mind already? Like Ian last year made it clear at the start of the year that Sam was his captain. Have you decided on a captain this year for yourself?
Good question. Yeah, firstly on Sam. Look, the process, he came to us before I had any conversations around the captaincy role, and obviously what was said yesterday in the media. he articulated his, his rest of his career wanted to spend up in Japan and spend some family time, and he'd earned and deserved it. As we all know, what he's put himself and his body through, and what he's given the country. So that process was, it took a couple of weeks to talk through, and then the contractual side of it was done. And yep, look, I'm fair conversations around captaincy and the roles, the role, and like I said, it'll be announced when we name the team.
Okay, just jumping from that, in terms of your selections, how much of a clean slate are you going in with? Was that whiteboard empty at the start of the year, or did you have names already penned in, or are you going on Super Rugby form?
It's 3 questions, by the way.
Thank you.
There's a little bit of Super Rugby form. Like, obviously, we've got a lot of established All Blacks. A lot of guys are coming back from the Rugby World Cup. Guys are going to be that have been All Blacks before available. So, you spend a lot of your time, like 80% of your time, on the 20%. The guys, the players that haven't been All Blacks or been All Blacks before, and you see their current form. Are they executing it? Like some of the local derbies that have been great opportunities for us to look at our players and see what they're like under pressure, see their traits. And so that's been great. And, we'll use all these games that we possibly can right to the end to make sure we make the right decision for the announcement.
127, Scott Robertson, again, who was speaking at the Zoom presser today. And so what normally happens, the way it happens, is you ask a couple of questions, and then you sit back and you let whoever else is there ask questions. So we've got about 5 more quotes from Razor. Is Sam part of your plans? Do you anticipate having him back in the All Blacks?
It's like anything, it's on form. He's coming back from an injury. He's got to perform to be involved with the All Blacks. He knows that. He's been involved with leadership meetings already. He's involved, and he's still got that personality and that those leadership qualities. He knows what to say at the right time, so he's been valuable. And look, he's, as we know, when you play 95 test matches, you've been around, haven't you? And you know what it takes. So he's available this year. If he performs, it's up to me to pick him.
Yeah, I like that. I mean, and I like the fact that he's open and honest about this. Sam Cane's played 95 tests. Again, disagree with me here. Argue against it. Tell me who is a better number 7. Now, we don't know how he is playing, though, because of the injury. And this is a key here. So he was asked, Razor, to update that injury. And I didn't actually realise, I'd completely forgotten about this, but he hasn't actually played since pretty much the end of January. Update injury.
Currently all going well. He should be available for selection around the Argentinian tests. So, look, he's progressing really well. Been in contact with him since he's been back in Japan. We've seen a physio up there and more monitoring him, and he's going well.
I think another fascinating story going on at the moment is about Richie Mo'unga, who has been linked, of course, a return to New Zealand. Razor was asked, do you want him back?
My job, Liam, is to get the best players for the All Blacks. And look, I'm not going to talk on individual players, but my role is to get the best All Blacks that are available out on the field for our country. And look, what sort of goes on behind the scenes, obviously we've got to be really professional around it, especially around employment stuff. But that's all I can say to that.
He's great, isn't he? Eh? He's great. I mean, remember when we had him last year?
I was just waiting for NZIU to make the announcements, really.
He treads carefully, doesn't he? You kind of feel he wants to say more, Razor, but he can't, obviously. What are your thoughts around number 7 and options at 7? Is Ardie a possibility to go back there?
One thing for me is being a top-level team that's got the ability to flexibility and players to adapt is to play a couple of positions, and obviously Ardie can do that for sure. We've got some depth at 7. We've got some guys that have been in and played, like when they're all fit, we've got some depth in that position. And we've had that conversation with Sam. He'll get back. We're trying to find out where he can play a little game, where he can play a game of footy to get back and to get some form. But look, Blues forwards are exciting. There's some really good performances. There's some really good form for our players in Super Rugby. It's great. It's great. Those really torrid games. You can see them playing. Aussie teams are playing well as well. There's seen them when they're travelling overseas. There's some great pictures of us to pick a team.
Plenty of meat in this press conference, isn't there, then? We're a few minutes away from Ian Foster joining us with his thoughts on Sam Cane. I want to ask Fozzie about, last year he named him right at the start of the year as his All Black captain. What kind of propelled him to do that? Also, what kind of legacy does he think Sam leaves right now? Does he have a future in the All Blacks? And also, just the toll that getting the red card and losing by a point in Paris has taken. What kind of toll has that taken on Sam? So we'll ask Foz all about that in a second. Final question that will play you from Razor's press conference. And again, this is all, or most of it should be actually available on any of the major news websites, which we aren't. We aren't a news organisation, okay? We're just a talk station. So your trust in younger players and the new generation, the next generation of players.
The form in Super Rugby is one thing, but the ability to set them up to be successful in Test Rugby, are their core roles under pressure? How do you get them ready each week? When do you expose them? What sort of games do you put them into? What combinations are they with? All of those things really matter. And I think that's one thing with, our coaches picking on their position. So using halfback, for an example, Scott Hanson's looked closely with the players and worked with the super clubs to make sure that those core skills, we see them. And then as you go deeper into the competition, you can see them under pressure.
Devlin,
Have you seen my wiener?
the platform.
Sam Cane, 95 tests for the All Blacks so far, 27 as captain. How is he regarded, though, here in New Zealand? Anyone that's played that amount of tests for the All Blacks you think would just be absolutely revered, but no, not so. Well, maybe not from a media or a fan's perspective, or most fans' perspective, but certainly from the coach who selected him as All Black captain. Ian Foster, first up. How do you look at him as All Black captain, and how would you like him to be looked at as All Black captain?
Well, I've got massive regard for Sam, and as a person, as a player, and as a captain. And I think when people consider, the time that he was captain, he took over. We went into a COVID situation. Rugby was a little bit in turmoil in 2020, even into 21. We had an All Black team that was on tour for 14 weeks, basically in quarantine, playing 12 tests. We had a lot of our leaders couldn't come because of the quarantining and all that sort of stuff. We had 5 captains that year, and the reason I'm saying all that, Marty, is that through all that, even when he wasn't there, he connected well. He led alongside others. I think he was a very collaborative leader within the team. He empowered a number of guys around him, and he built a leadership group around him that I think was really powerful. He had some great mentors early in his career, but he really worked with people. But then when it came to the crunch and big games, I think he showed that he could lead from the front as we would expect an All Black captain to do.
Was there anyone else at the time that you thought about giving the captain to when you named him captain? Because you did name him at the start of last season.
Yeah, look, there's always, at the time when we first looked at it in 2020, we'd sort of ended, we've had 2 iconic captains before that. I mean, we had Richie Mo'unga and then we had Kieran Reid, and there was sort of no doubt about the captaincy. And as we go into this one, it was like we had a number of really good candidates, and that's a consequence of the strong leadership group and the mentoring that had gone on the last 10 years. So we were in a good position, but I really wanted to be clear. I wanted people to know who the leader was going to be, and did that early. And so, I guess with the selectors at that point, we decided on Sam, and really believe we got that right.
Ian, how much toll did the World Cup final loss and that red card take on him?
I think a big toll. if you put yourself in his shoes, it was a massive thing to happen, and then it wasn't only only that, it was all the debate about it afterwards, and it was a real World Cup final, was it, full of drama and decisions that'll be talked about for decades. So, and he's at the centre of that. So, look, it's never easy, and I know he's got a massive sense of commitment to his team, and obviously being captain and then to get red carded in that first half was immensely challenging for him. But he got surrounded by the people that really mattered the most, which is his teammates, and the teammates know that everyone's a whisker away from getting a card at that tournament, because that's the way it was being reffed, and it was Sam's turn. And so whilst it was immensely frustrating for the team and for him, I know that he hurt a lot, but he got over it. In many ways, I think probably the decision an earlier decision to go and have a sabbatical at Japan probably turned out to be quite a good thing for him and his family, I think, just to give himself a bit of breathing space after that. But he's fine.
Two quick questions before we go. How big a job is it, the All Black captain, with the pressure on it? Is it almost too big a job at times, do you think?
No, I don't think it is. I think it's someone's got to do it.
It's a lot easier from this side of the microphone, I'll tell you that much, mate.
And it's probably not going to be you and me. I think the captaincy is look, it is a big job, but the immenseness of it is really dependent on the leadership group around it, and also the relationship with the coaches and the management team, because they're a big part of the support unit do for the captains. And I think if you create the environment that they know they've got a clear role and they feel backed and supported internally, then they can deal with things. I think the problem is that for some reason we put such a scrutiny on it, and in fact we almost expect perfection from them at every time. And I think that Sam, I believe, has been judged a little bit tough sometimes. I'd go and watch him play Super Rugby, and sometimes he'd miss a couple of tackles, and some of his game wasn't quite at that right level, and then you'd start to read, well, he ain't an All Black captain, and all those sort of feedback, which everyone's entitled to do. But people forget, he used to go and watch Richie Mo'unga play some Super Rugby games, and he wasn't quite up to the mark that he would always be at. But you knew that when things mattered and they put on a black jersey and they knew that they had the front, then you knew that person would. And, I think the quarterfinal for Sam at the World Cup was a classic case of that.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. We can debate this all afternoon. We can debate this all week if you want. If you've just joined us, just let me reiterate the position. We sit here on this side of the microphone. I really rate him as a number 7. If I had to rate my top 7 number 7s in New Zealand of all time, he ain't 1 or 2, because that's Richie Mo'unga and Iceman. But he's certainly, I think, in the top 7. And, you don't play 95 tests and be a bad player. Not in that position, because the All Blacks have always been strong in that position. So the question now is, who gets that jersey? So he comes back, but we haven't seen him play because he's been away, and he hasn't played since January, I think it was 20th. I think Liam pointed out in the press conference, something like that. Ardie Savea, do you move him to 7 when he's played all his international rugby over the last 2, 3, 4 years at 8? Dalton Papali'i, do you move him to 7? I don't think he's got the pace to play 7. And also, I still have reservations about Dalton, just in terms of his ability to step up and play the bigger opponents. He talks a great game, talks a big game, talked it at the World Cup, talked it in the Island Series, doesn't put it out on paddock. So I still think that he's got a hell of a lot to prove. Who else is there? Tom Christie from the Crusaders?
Big fan of Tom Christie. He should be given a chance. He probably will, because Razor's now the All Blacks coach.
Duplessis, I think he's too raw.
No.
I think he's too... to me...
Billy Harmon, Highlanders, he's very good. I like Billy Harmon. He's been on the fringe of the All Blacks for a couple of years.
Both of those guys, Karifi and him, I would perhaps add to an All Black squad at the end of the year. I'm not saying that I'd pick them at number 7 in the very first tests against Fiji and England.
So you'd probably have 6 loose forwards in your first squad, right?
Always.
So who are your 6 right now? If you're Razor and you're picking 6, who are they?
Well, I think you've got to write down those guys in Japan because remember the experience that he's lost. He's lost 9 and 10. So who are your leaders? And what does he do? Does he bring Satutu back at 8? Because if he brings Satutu...
Yeah, based on form, Satutu deserves to be in there.
Okay,
certainly.
Well, okay, but there's a guy that hasn't played a hell of a lot of All Black rugby, certainly hasn't played a lot in the last couple of years, but fringe player. So around him, you're going to have to add experience. I'm only saying this because of the guru, Murray Mexted. And we're going to have Mex back on air this year. And when Mex talks about this, he talks about the combination of loose forwards. You can't pick a 7 without marrying in an 8 and a 6 at the same time. Now, Dalton Papali'i, I'm not even sure what his best position is. Is he a 6 or is he an 8 or is he a 7? Or is he a guy that comes off the bench and covers those positions? So, again, strength and depth. I mean, we pride ourselves on this in New Zealand rugby, don't we? But do we actually have it in reality? Hello, Sean. Thanks for calling, mate. What do you got?
Oh, g'day, Marty. Yeah, just wanted to share something about Sam Cane and a bit of a personal story.
Go on.
So most of the World Cup last year, my uncle in his mid-80s, he was bedridden. We knew he was slowly dying, but he was hanging out for the World Cup, being a big rugby man. And after that marvellous match that the All Blacks put on against Ireland, I went to visit him in Palmerston North, and he's there. He's not communicative. We know he can hear us, but he can't get up or anything like that. And I said, look, mate, I'm going to say something I never thought I'd say before. Sam Cane played an absolutely blinding game. He was absolutely magnificent.
Go on.
And I could see I got this little grin out of his face, and that was it. And sadly, unfortunately, he passed away a few hours after the final. But I'll always remember Sam Cane for that wonderful match against Ireland and the last time to communicate with a great mate of mine.
What a fantastic story. Thank you so much for that. That's an ex-WCC councillor, Sean Rush, joining us on the program. And what do they think of Sam Cane overseas? Chris Jones, Times Online, rugbypass.com. He's been a correspondent of ours for the past couple of decades. He's attended every single Rugby World Cup there has been. His thoughts on Sam Cane, where he sits now, what kind of legacy he might leave. How do we look back at his career? And I want this from your perspective as well as our perspective, obviously, here. So let's start at your place. How should we look back at him and his All Black career?
I think he should be looked at as an incredibly brave man who broke his neck and came back to play rugby when most of us would have said, right, time to take a seat in the stand, mate. No, he came back, put his body on the line again, has taken all the hassle, and we got it. We got it from you guys. It was coming over in waves from New Zealand about this guy's captaining us. He's a poor man's Richie McCaw. He's this, he's that. He doesn't do this, doesn't do that. You know, players followed him into action. He must have had something. The guys weren't sitting in the changing room saying, we're not coming out following that bloke. Yeah, and we couldn't understand what it was about him which drew so much ire, because he was a good, solid international player who happened to be captaining, at various times the best team in the world, depending which season it was. But his overall record will show that he had a 75% winning record. That's fifth in the all-time list of New Zealand captains. Of course, the problem is who's at the top? Richie McCaw, and it's a name which we knew. We were we knew him because he proved that you can be a fantastic rugby player by entering every ruck from the side.
Yes,
but we'll leave that to one side at the moment. But Richie was that sort of personality, and Sam is a good, solid guy, but he's not gonna get up on stage and tell you a load of jokes as a stand-up comedian, is he? He's not a Khaleesi. He's not going to get a country behind him. He's not even a hooper who just seems to be half mad. Sam was your good, solid bloke next door who always was going to accept whatever was coming his way. And if any player in the world was going to have his greatest moment ruined, you knew, didn't you? It was going to be poor old Sam.
Well, yeah, look, we're going to go back to that because obviously Ian Foster was a point away from being Sir Ian Foster, and Sam Cane was also a point away and that red card away from going down in folklore again in New Zealand rugby. And that's what sport does, doesn't it? I mean, some people walk away. Richie McCaw, it couldn't have been a bigger fairy tale ending. Dan Carter exactly the same. And here's a guy that could have actually, Dan Carter could have been the injured guy who never won a World Cup. Instead, he wins in 2015. And Sam Cane, 2019 semi-final. And then, came on at halftime, of course, in that game. And then he captains the All Blacks from there through their worst run in God knows how long, Chris. But, I mean, this is a team that's lost, 13 or 14 matches in the last 4 or 5 years. That is unlike any All Black side. Setting up all of those records we didn't want. Losing to Ireland in a series, losing to Argentina at home, record defeat to South Africa. All of this is also on his resume. That colours it for us.
Yeah, because you blame him. It's all his fault. That's the sort of image we got coming over here. Is that, boy, how is this guy still above ground? He hasn't put a gun to his head because he's getting such a hard time. And you know what? Those defeats weren't all down to him. And that's what we couldn't understand. And, yeah, look, we know you are the sort of Manchester United of rugby, aren't you? Yeah, a great name at the moment. Yeah, look at the Manchester United at the moment. I hate to intrude on personal grief here. But, the great team shambles at the moment. There were periods where Sam appeared to be the only one who wasn't losing his head. And that was a stability, I think, that the Fozzie looked at and said, right, we've got to have this guy in because, he fronts up, he does all the press conference stuff. And, he may not have been the most exciting interview we've ever done, but he never shirked it. And that's if you want to put something on it at Epitaph, I never shirked it would be a good one for him because he always put himself out there, no matter what we said about him, no matter what was written about him, no matter what social media said about him, he went out there and did it for his country to the best of his ability. You know what? That's not a bad thing to do in your life, is it?
The Tight Five.
5 separate sporting topics, roughly a minute or so on each, and when the bell reminds us, we go on to the next topic. Fury's father headbutts a guy at the press conference. I got the audio of this. It's just bing bong. It really is. Are there drugs involved? I think the question is, how can you look at that and say drugs aren't involved? Villa are about to make the Champions League. Drew 3-3 with your mob this morning at Villa Park. And we watched that game here at work, Lachlan.
We don't need to talk about that.
But I'm celebrating the Villa. Sam Cane, legacy. After 95 tests as an All Black, why doesn't he get the respect that he deserves? Raises presser. What'd you learn about that? Beat Penrith and everything changes. Shut up. Beat Penrith and everything changes.
Well, you said this last week against the Roosters. What happened?
All right.
What happened?
That didn't happen. And giving up the vape day 6. Let us start with Raises presser. What did you learn? What did you learn about Scott Robertson during that?
Jeez, that's a nasty text, Craig. Sorry, I just saw my name on the text the text line. Martin, can I just say Bigfoot has less facial hair than Lockie? I'll tell you what, I've got a nicely groomed moustache.
Yeah,
thank you, Craig.
Girls like it, mate. Girls like it. Lachlan grows a pretty good Tom Selleck moustache, actually. It's not bad. It's actually what we used to call back in the 70s and 80s a traffic cop moustache.
Good. Well, it's been called other things. I mean, when my auntie saw it for the first time, she thought I looked like a pedophile.
That's not good.
No, it's not good.
Is this the same auntie who went out with Ian?
No, stop it.
The West Indian cricketer?
No, it doesn't matter who she went out with. Jeez.
That is that auntie. All right.
I never have told you that.
Scott Robertson at the presser.
Yeah.
Lachlan and I enjoyed it. It was fun. I always like talking to this guy. I always like catching up with a few old other journo mates working for other sports organisations. What did we learn?
I'll tell you what I learned. It was the first thing I noticed that Scott Robertson has, he's much more measured and calculated with how he answers questions.
Oh, yeah.
And it's probably links partly to last year when he had that little clip that you always play when he was asked.
He was put in the naughty chair.
I'm just waiting for Enzo to make the announcements, really.
He's asked about the All Blacks job, and he pretty much revealed that, I've got it. I just got to wait for him to say something. Everyone's like, oh, okay, hold up a sec. And then he got tapped on the shoulder.
And then, look, we interviewed him weeks after that, and he said a couple of things to us, and we can actually reveal this now. we went and kind of removed them later from the interview so that if people went back and listened, just to protect him from those in NZR HQ who might have actually overreacted to him being honest. So, because what you don't want is with a guy like him is you don't want to restrict him. He's a kind of an effervescent character, but he has to tread carefully here out of respect for all of those players, out of Ardie, out of Sam K, and all of the players playing in New Zealand. And he doesn't, look, I think what he wants to do is create that situation again where players don't genuinely know that they're going to be named as All Blacks and get, so that they can play with a ferocity, they can play with freedom, they can actually play wanting to get that jersey. And he doesn't want to actually outline it all now and say, such and such is the captain, and, so long-winded way of saying, measured, certainly.
Yeah, measured. But he didn't reveal a huge amount.
Is Sam Cane still in the mix, do you think? After listening to him?
Well, it depends how. It depends what he. I would say so, because there's two ways you can go. You can go about it in the post World Cup sort of cycle when you restart one, if you will, is whether you lean really heavily on just blooding a new group of players, if you will, or leaning really hard on experienced players you've used in the past. So, based on the fact that Razor had that training session with a bunch of guys who'd been in the All Blacks the last couple of years at the start of this year, suggests to me that he's going to look to kind of, and the fact that he put in the call to Sam Wylock, and apparently he had a meeting with Richie Mo'unga, that he is looking to maintain some experience in the team. He doesn't want to kind of bring in the new generation just yet. And based on that, I think Kane and Ardie, if they're healthy and they're in relatively good form, they will, those two in particular, will absolutely be in the All Blacks. I don't think there's anyone in the loose forward group. Like I wrote down just before who the loose forward leaders, if you will, for selection. I've got about 15 here, but Samapeni Finau's probably our 6.
Yeah.
I think Hoskins Satutu, based on form and guys who are in New Zealand, solely in New Zealand right now, he's probably our number 8. And then our open side, I guess, is Dalton, because he's kind of been the next cab off the ranks over the last couple of years and probably deserves more of an extended run there. But other than that, I don't think there's anyone else who's sitting there going, I'm absolutely an All Black and I absolutely deserve to be on that team.
Yeah, and so when you're looking especially at the 7, 6, 8 positions, are any of those players demonstrably better than Ardie Savea and Sam Cane?
No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I think the only guy there, I don't think any of them are, actually. I really don't. I don't think any of them I think Hoskins Satutu is the only bloke in Super Rugby this year who's had a massive jump. Like, Samapeni's been good, but I think it's been a steady rise from last year to this year. I don't think Dalton's been spectacular. He's been good, but he hasn't been spectacular.
But he has been, in an All Black jersey, he's been 6.5 out of 10. Yeah. I have never seen a game where I've gone, wow, Dalton Papali'i playing for the All Blacks. That was amazing. Whereas Sam Cane against Ireland was.
Yeah. And there's two guys who I've liked the look of, and just quickly, Braden Yosei at the Hurricanes, though I think it's still maybe early days for him. Though he's only 25, he's actually not too young. And the other guy's Devin Flanders, who's from Hawke's Bay, who's been playing for a while.
Let's talk Aston Villa Champions League. I thought they'd done it with a point today, but no, they've opened the door. Tottenham, this is the way it works now. There is a couple of games to go this week, 2 or 3 games, and then it all wraps up Monday morning, and all the games are simultaneous in the English Premier League. I think what most of us neutrals, God, it's a forever, neutrals. I think what I'm looking at, and I hope I'm right for most people, is that I want to see it go down to the final day. I want to see those matches, every match means something, like Arsenal playing Everton at home, Man City playing West Ham. To me, the ideal situation would be Tottenham take a point or beat. If Tottenham beat Man City tomorrow, which is very unlikely, but if they did, they could then get 4th on the last day if Aston Villa went and lost to Crystal Palace. So all of a sudden, all those games come into play, and they're meaningful matches, right?
Yeah.
But this is the thing. Tottenham going to take a point off Man City, who in the last 4 matches have scored 19 goals, conceded 1, and are doing it on a stroll.
What's Spurs' form like? It's appalling.
Yeah, well, it hasn't been good. They beat Burnley on the weekend, but it hasn't been good.
I mean, everyone's beaten Burnley at some stage this year. Tottenham, I think, have won 1 out of their last 5. Before that, at least in terms of their last 5, I can't see beyond that just on this table, they'd lost 4 in a row.
There you go.
Spurs are in a horrible run of form. There's nothing, and it's at home to them or City?
It's home, and I think Man City have only won once in the last 6. These are the stats we cling to in these circumstances.
Good for the stats. Good for history.
I mean, Man City are going to dick them 5.
Exactly.
But look, I don't have a problem with Aston Villa. I have a problem with the many clubs, but go the Villa. This will be the first time that they're in the European Cup or Champions League since '83. I've got a couple of Villa mates, so go the Villa.
Well, you've got a couple of Liverpool mates.
Yeah, but I just can't stand your club. I would rather Man United never won another match in the world as long as you never won the title again. I don't care if our stadium never gets repaired. I don't care if half of those useless players end their careers at Man United. I don't mind if we actually If we trip over and we lose to the Liverpool reserves, as long as the Liverpool A team doesn't win the title again.
If you had to choose between one of these two instances, these two things happening, Liverpool win the league next year, or Paul Pogba and Neymar sign for Manchester United and play every single game of the league season for you guys, what would you rather happen?
Make Neymar the captain. Make him the captain in that case. Make him the captain. See, this is it. I can't get over the inbred hatred I have for Liverpool Football Club.
But you can't stand Neymar
I can't
and Paul
stand
Pogba.
out of those guys. This is how I live my life. I live my life like this. Full of seething, hissing, snake pit pus at your club. Whew.
Not that bad.
Good God. Jeez. You didn't even steal my CDs or bang my best mate. Yeah. Fury's dad. Have a listen to this, okay?
Fury!
Then they get closer together, headbutts the guy. There's a 59-year-old man. You're not even fighting. Your son's fighting. A couple of things about this. When he was asked afterwards with blood coming out of his head, Dad Fury, he says, he's the best ever heavyweight to don boxing gloves. No, he's not. No, he's not, mate. No, he's not. Stop that. He's a damn good heavyweight, Tyson Fury, and that win against Klitschko in Germany was unbelievable, given the circumstances of that.
Yeah, Klitschko was well past.
Sure, but since then he's been, he's such an awkward fighter. He's beaten everyone that's been put in front of him. But hey, Dad,
very disrespectful to those who walked before.
Dad, you're 59, mate. No, I'm a warrior, he said. No, Dad, you're a fat, bald, 59-year-old loudmouth. Stop it, mate.
Just quickly, there's a very famous clip of Mike Tyson, and he's on a talk show with Muhammad Ali. Ali's old. This is like maybe early 2000s, late 90s, and Ali says they're asked, who would win in a fight in your prime, and Ali says, he'd smack me around. He's really powerful. Then Tyson, who's obviously had his demons in his life and has rubbed people up the wrong way and gone to prison and whatnot, he did say something where he said he articulates it beautifully. It's almost poetic, but he just says something or other this, something or other that. He is the greatest. There's no debate about it. About Ali. And I thought, there's a bloke there who he would talk himself up to anyone any day of the week.
He's the baddest man on the planet.
Exactly. But he knows who the greatest was.
The greatest is
Have
Muhammad
some
Ali.
respect for who walked before you.
Finally, beat Penrith and it all changes. Beat Penrith and everything changes.
Sorry, please. Just
Penrith.
Say it again.
We're not even talking about this anymore. Beat Penrith is all the Warriors have got to do, and forget everything that's happened in the last few weeks. NBA basketball, the finals are on at the moment. This is some of the best sport that you'll see in the world, on this planet right now. And this series between the Timberwolves, the young guns, up against the defending champ, the old grunters, the Denver Nuggets. Fantastic series, tied at 2 now. Sean Keeler from the Denver Post joined us to talk. Mate, we all thought your team was done and out after the first 2, that they were gone, man.
I think the extra rest really helped and should not be overlooked in that, given that you had, let's be real, we make this as complicated. You guys know I try to keep it simple because my brain doesn't work fast. We make it more complicated than it is when with the Nuggets, it's pretty much about how good are Jokic and Murray, and specifically in the postseason, it's playoff Jamal. Game 2, I hadn't seen that version, air quotes, of the Nuggets, like, forever. Like, I didn't know a version that could just get absolutely run at home like that, could be like that. Murray was hurt. Murray played hurt, and then he played pouty, and then he played disinterested, and then he blew his temper. It's amazing what an extra day, a little rest, and a few tweaks from a pretty good coaching staff can do, and it just completely, did a 180 in 3 days. I'm shocked it was that much 180. I'm not shocked that they won in Minnesota. I'm surprised they won twice. I'm surprised that they just destroyed them once, because that's Minnesota and its staff not knowing how to deal with success as much as it is the Nuggets making the right adjustment.
Well, a lot to process there. 19-29 off 3 yesterday. That 8-point sequence at the end of the first half, where you get a 3, and then Anthony Edwards drops the ball at 2, and then the half court or more than half court shot. I mean, those 8 points there. How big psychologically was that?
Massive. And the Nuggets make a point. They're one of the best closing teams to close a half, close a quarter, close a period to finish. They're like what I call the closers. You know, guys know I'm a big baseball fan. The Nuggets are some of the best closers as a group, as a coaching staff, as a starting five, or even a five on the floor, because you saw Christian Brown finishing with that group the way that Bruce Brown, no relation as you know, finished with that group last year in order to try to mix up matchups and try to hold the lead. I think that's down to kind of being there, and it sounds cliche, as Michael Malone said the other day, but that's the heart of the champion thing coming back. And I don't think I've ever trusted a basketball team in a close game or with a lead in the final 3 minutes of a quarter, 3 minutes of a half than I do the Nuggets. And when you know that you can, it's kind of like the NFL, guys, how much of that you guys see that teams that are really good in the last 2 minutes know, Patrick Mahomes knows he can steal possession, pop, 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 get something, get a quick three, get a quick seven. Nuggets are kind of the same way, and they know how to also repel that on the other side, and that's a huge weapon in the playoffs.
Sean Keeler, Denver Post with us. I want to give the props to the coach, Michael Malone, because after that second game blowout, he was embarrassed at the press conference post-match. He apologised to the home fans because that game was over in the second quarter after that 11-0 run. For him to get that team back up, to motivate that team, how much credit goes to him?
Oh, a lot. You've got veterans also, not just on that coaching staff, but on the bench. I think it was DeAndre Jordan, allegedly, it's not been 100% confirmed, said to him, go get all the national sportscasters and those national talk shows that don't like you anyway. They don't want you on this stage. Oklahoma City runs into the same thing, the Thunder, where they don't want you here. You're not from a market they like. You're not a coastal team. You don't bring a lot of ratings, so get the heck out of here. They make a supercut and just play the dirt that was being shoveled. I mean, literally.
Go on.
He kicked them while they were down and said, "Look, this is what people are saying about you. How are you going to respond?" I think the results are self-explanatory there. I also, as much as I give them praise for being closers, and this goes back to Michael Malone too, I've been here 5 years. I've seen them in 5 playoffs now. 2 Western Finals, 1 championship. Nobody plays the underdog card, not just in the NBA, but certainly in this city where we've also got a pretty good hockey coach like Michael Malone. He loves the disrespect game. And so, I hope they keep it up, because I actually think the Nuggets are not great front runners, but they're fabulous underdogs. And they kind of showed everybody why.
Come on, let's be positive. Just stop right there. No negativity. Let's be positive. LBP. Let's be positive.
LBP, let's be positive, Matt. We've got so much to be positive about. Oh, that's right. Our Warriors and our Doggies both lost. But the Highlanders won, of course. Let's be positive about the jersey clashes, and I was all over this yesterday. I just don't know how you can constantly cock this up, Matt. It just seems to me to be the most simple thing. Ever since we went to school, we knew what uniform we wore, and it was different from the other school's uniform. How ridiculous is this, where they put 2 teams out on the pitch with essentially the same jerseys? And they do it all the time, mate.
Look, at the start of the season, they know who they're playing. I don't see how we can't go lights and darks or whatever it is that you want to do. Shirts or no shirts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
From a distance, it wasn't easy to distinguish which team was which.
You're talking New South Wales and the Brumbies. Camera, terrible, mate. Yeah.
Predominantly white jerseys. And the bits that weren't white weren't dark enough to really distinguish the two. Sit down at the start of the season and just work it out. Send each other an email. What are you going to wear, the dark jersey or the light jersey? What are we going to do? I mean, it's hard enough to work out what's happening at the breakdown as it is now anyway, without guys coming in from the side that all look the same.
Yeah. You sit there and there are very highly paid people that are there to make these decisions and to get this right, and they constantly cock it up. And this is why we lampoon New Zealand rugby and we treat it, Sansa, like the farce that it is. Because, it is, honestly, mate, okay, what colour is the warehouse?
Yeah, she's bright red.
Yeah. What colour's a fire engine? It's bright red. I mean, it's not that difficult to figure out, is it? So if I'm going to build another building next to the warehouse, I probably won't paint it the same colour, will I?
No, you don't want to look like them. And
No.
at the end of the day, with so many variations of the jerseys that they've got, to think that you bring a similar one out on the day, it just doesn't make sense.
What is even more nonsensical was finally the Aussie netball, where they get to the end of the game. One team's in the dressing room. They're getting ready for the shower. Somebody knocks on the door and says, no, hang on a second. Sorry, scoreboard error. It's actually 71 all, not 71-70. So like an hour afterwards, they come back onto the court. They get dicked an extra time, of course, because everyone's warmed down at that stage. You're in your civvies. You're starting to do your TikToks and you're starting to think about where you're going to go for a drink. Again, sports administration, Matt, to get a job, a highly paid job in sports administration, you must have to fail the idiot test. That's got to be the first one, doesn't it? Are you a moron? Yes, I am. I'm a moron. Great. You're the CEO of New Zealand Rugby. Next.
Well, apparently someone just changed it in the last quarter of the game. And then they didn't realise till the end. I mean, 50 minutes to review it. That's literally watching the whole game again.
Yeah.
At normal speed.
At normal speed, yeah.
Why couldn't you have fast-forwarded through? Surely someone's keeping another tally. I mean, when I used to do basketball, we would keep the score ourselves.
That's it. You write it down. Yeah.
So surely there's someone on the scoreboard. Surely there's someone putting the scores.
You think so?
On a sheet somewhere as well, or into a computer or something. People are furious. But the rules in Australia's netball's contract says you can't question the result once we've done
it. Yeah.
That's it. Bad luck. The eventual losing side's Kate says, look, we thought we were ahead. We would have played differently. We would have forced a shot at the end to try and get the win. We thought we already had the win. Turns out we didn't have the win, and we just fluffed around through the court wasting time. We want a rematch, and I reckon that probably is the only fair result, to play the game again. How do you bring someone back 50 minutes after a match to get them to go again? Because for me, warming up, that's like 2 full matches anyway. So they've warmed down, they've commiserated themselves, or they've congratulated themselves, and then they get beaten.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show, 1 till 4, Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do, though, is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.